Welcome to this video talking about the three different varieties of what it means to be a one, the principled reformer. Constantly keeping in mind a couple of things so you can go deeper into your reading and understanding, at least in the book Shock Point, the Enneagram and Burnout and Stress, and that this is the context in which we are presenting some of these ideas, is the idea of like, how are you defaulting into unconscious patterns and habits through stress responses and things that have probably worked out for you pretty well in a lot of contexts and situations throughout your life. And now you're seeing like, well, sometimes these are the very sources that are creating the conditions of my stress and burnout. In this case, with the self-preservation ones, the subtype name being worry, they are probably the most famous for having that inner critic. This is the type that, even of the ones, they have a very vocal and present inner critic, and they are so attuned to being good that they even repress that natural emotional stance of anger that all the body types have, 8, 9s, and 1s. They all have a response to anger, the 8s expressing it, 9s falling asleep to it, and 1s having different responses to it. But in this case, as we're saying here for self-preservation ones, they will do reaction formation, which is a defense mechanism. When you feel the irritation or the anger, you put on a face that suggests just the opposite. And they handed the report in late and with the typo, and you say, "Thank you, great, you got it in," while feeling the internal like, "Oh man, you missed the deadline and look at this typo." They may do a lot of the interrupt self when talking to correct oneself, is basically just this idea of constantly questioning oneself a lot. And we've heard them say this with this idea of they may hold on and self-doubt and self-criticize about things they did years ago, and they're still holding on to it. They might worry about the least little flaw ruining the whole thing, like a typo in a report, and really give a lot of intensity to it. They're most often confused for a 6. And I mean, it depends on the subtype of 6. And we'll get, if you haven't checked out those 6s, really big differences between those 3 subtypes of the 6s. Let's see. The social one is called rigidity, the most rigid of the 3 ones. And there's this thing with the expression of doing what is right through the social instinct creates this core need to be superior by virtue of knowing what the moral standards are, what is best, and then modeling that to everyone else, letting everyone else know what these standards are, even challenging a system that if they believe that the system is wrong. Famous example, Martin Luther hammering up those 95 Theses to challenge the authority of the Catholic Church. It certainly led to the Reformation, but he certainly was rigid and self-righteous in what he was opposing. In his letters, you can really hear it. So they impose their ideas of what is right and wrong. Social standards express this fundamental need, ultimately, though, to belong, but they're belonging because they are finding what is right. They often do form groups of like-minded advocates and sometimes can be mistyped as a 5, interestingly enough. So if you are exploring the possibilities that this may be your type, or if you've seen your behavior and actions under stress, you may be considering the possibility of being a social one. Now, the sexual 1-to-1 one is the counter type, the type that goes against appearing one-ish. It's called Zeal, and mainly it is because this type has the least loud inner critic of the 3 ones. So if you are asked, are you a 1? We're really looking at you maybe being a 1. Let's really look at this. And you're like, well, I don't really have the inner critic, which is such a big question about 1s. I don't have it as loud as you're saying. And I really don't have as much trouble holding my anger in. Well, that is part of what makes this one not look as one and why the subtypes can be so helpful. So the focus is on rightness, proving traits that make them desirable. See how well I model good behavior? That should make me attractive to you. And so their intensity and excitement in seeking the object of their desire, as well as for doing things with care. So you can see that filter of the sexual one-to-one bonding, as they can bring an intensity to what they're looking for. That's the zealousness. And is also, again, just like doing things really well. And it might be slow and methodical, but you're going to like the end result. And they can be zealous about causes they believe are right. Also, just in general, with all of the ones, you can see sometimes the body type is a little rigid, a little like contained, a little proper, because unconsciously that's what they're modeling. Just some things to think about when keeping in mind, are you a one? So thanks for listening to this one. Let us know if you have any questions about any of the body types or any of the subtypes of the ones. And we encourage you to keep exploring and dig deeper into some of reading and other materials we may have provided you as you have time and inclination in your own growth work.